right, guys, welcome back to another video. So believe it or not, yesterday there was a lot more news other than just the Xbox Activision Blizzard stuff, and this type of news is about games coming to Xbox Game Pass, as there was the ID at Xbox showcase that did occur, and we saw a bunch of stuff. I love indie games. I think a lot of indie games are actually better than AAA games in creativity, in being able to try new stuff that we haven't seen, cool creative art styles, and games coming out that aren't broken. So there's a lot of positives about indie games. I think Xbox does a great job with the ID at Xbox showcases to show them off to the world. Now, there is a bunch of stuff shown off here, so I'll go over just some of the ones highlighted here in this article, because they have a lot of the main ones that I was pretty interested in. And we'll start off here with Monolith Requiem of Ancients. Looks very, very cool. It is like an action RPG style of game in an open world. Gives me a little bit of the Zelda vibes with the art style and even some of the music, and the action looks very, very fast paced, and you'll see some of it here in the video. And the colors very vibrant, so you can see how you have sword combat. There's also going to be like some magic combat here with the stuff that you see there with the walls, and just lots of enemies on screen, and you can kind of see what I mean. I think with the kind of Zelda vibe, it has like that cell shadedness, and some of the enemies were looking similar. But open world, this is exactly up my alley for the style of games that I enjoy, so I probably will be checking this game out. Monolith Requiem of Ancients. Then there was this game here, which is Stay Souls, and this is a horror game. It was announced back in 2021 and looks really, really good. I mean, it really is reminding me of kind of Resident Evil, just in the gunplay and the enemies, and graphically looks stunning. So keep your eye out for this one if you're into the horror genre. If you're into Resident Evil, this may be the one for you to check out. Axiom Verge 2 is coming over to Xbox. I believe that's already out. IGN, they say here, gave it a 7 out of 10. So people say that it isn't as good as the first Axiom Verge, but it is available now on Xbox. So you're going to have to go there and download and pay for it. It isn't coming to Game Pass. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, we saw more about this. We know this one is coming day one to Xbox Game Pass, and it's a multiplayer horror game. So we'll see how that works out. I don't know how good it will be. I mean, we didn't see too much of it in this trailer, like in terms of gameplay. It was more of just a CGI thing, but multiplayer horror, perfect for dropping into Game Pass. Tons of people will be able to jump in and try it out day one when it does release, and it is coming on August 18th. So keep your eyes open for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And next up, we have Hellboy Web of Word, and this is a rogue-like game with really cool graphics, and a Hellboy game, which to me, completely out of left field. Didn't expect to see a Hellboy game in 2023, but I'm in for it. It's a rogue-like game, looks cool. I like the graphics of it, just the art style that they are going for here, and the combat looks like it is going to be fun. So this is a Hellboy game. Make sure to check it out if you're interested in Hellboy. And then we have Myth Force. Now this one, as soon as I saw the trailer, it grabbed me right away, just because of the graphics and art style, like that old school cartoon graphics. And when you're playing it, it literally looks like you are playing a cartoon you're watching on TV, and it's a multiplayer co-op game that is coming on September 12th. It looks really, really neat. Excited to see how well it plays and how fun it is, and just how it feels in your hands, especially with the art style and graphics that they are going for. But you can see some of the gameplay here. As you can tell, it looks like you're literally in the cartoon playing the game. So really, really cool. That one was a surprise to me. I don't think I'd heard about it before. So Myth Force is going to be coming again September 12th. And then there was a bunch of other games, and these aren't the only ones that interest me, but I say these are probably the main ones. The other ones on this list that I would say go check out: Everspace 2, which is already out on PC, but it is coming over to Xbox, and it is coming to Xbox Game Pass. And then Sea of Stars, which is a turn-based RPG. So lots of stuff here to be checking out from the ID at Xbox showcase. If you do enjoy indie games, I would not sleep on a lot of these games. All right, let's jump over here and talk about the Xbox consoles. And one of the features that I've made videos on, because I thought it was one of the coolest things that Xbox allows you to do, which was get emulators on your console and be able to play retro games via these emulators. You can unlock dev mode for $20 and get the emulators on there. But then there was also another way, which was in retail mode, where you were able to actually go right to the Microsoft Store and download things like Dolphin Emulator and RetroArch onto your console and play all types of retro games: GameCube, PlayStation, OG Xbox, all of that type of stuff. There was even an emulator that you could download for Xbox 360 games. So it was really cool that you were able to do that. And obviously this wasn't something that Microsoft put out themselves. This was from people on the internet being able to create these things for us. And Microsoft recently caught on to that loophole to allow you to play these games via emulator, and they closed that loophole, which was very disappointing for a lot of people. But it looks like now it is back. And this is because of a group named uWeapon Store. And they have found another way to get these applications running on the retail version of the Series X and S. And to get access to these, they're asking for you to actually pay the group on Patreon $2 per month for this new way to access these emulators on retail mode. So if you want to get these still on retail, if you have everything set up that way, that will be probably the best way to do it. But there are other ways to still access retro games if you don't want to pay the $2 and you don't really care about having it in retail mode. And that is the Microsoft Edge browser, which is another thing that adds that versatility to Xbox, just having something as simple as a Microsoft Edge browser on there. But it says here that browser-based emulators for the N64, PlayStation, and Super NES, Sega Genesis, Mega Drive, MS-DOS, Amiga, and more were made accessible in late 2021, thanks to an update to Microsoft Edge. And again, there is still the developer mode that can be accessed for $20, which I believe you can still access your emulators that way. So at least it's back in some form if you were somebody using that, and we'll see if Microsoft somehow finds another way to shut down the loophole to get access via the uWeapon Store method for the emulation. Now, when it comes to retro games, I do love my retro games. I have a ton of them, collect them and everything like that. We got this report here. And this report is saying that 87% of classic video games are critically endangered. Now, this comes from the Video Game History Foundation in partnership with the Software Preservation Network, claiming that 87% of classic games released in the United States are critically endangered. And what does that mean? What does that mean that they are critically endangered? You guess you can't access them ever again. And basically what they're saying is that they conducted a study, two groups across sample of games released prior to 2010, and a small fraction of them were still in circulation from re-releases. They say, for example, of Commodore 64 games tested, only 4.5% of them were still purchasable on a modern digital storefront. So it's not even about the physical versions of these games going away. It's about the digital versions of these games. And we've seen this happen throughout the last number of years, which has always been my concern with the all digital era. I know I'm old school. Most people don't care. I care because I like my physical media. And we're seeing things like games just disappear off of storefronts and not being able to access them anymore. We're seeing stuff like servers being shut down and games that you've actually purchased physically can't play anymore. That type of stuff I don't like to see happening, but I feel like we're going to see a lot more of that going forward, going into the all digital era where these companies get to control everything that we own. You don't even really own it. You kind of own the access key to it, and then they can revoke that essentially at any time, as we've seen with previous examples. Now, when it comes to Game Boy's family of systems, only 5.8% were still available to be able to be played and purchasable on modern digital storefront. They say this figure was far higher prior to the shutdown of the Wii U and the 3DS eShop. We know that's something that did recently occur, which was a big blow to a lot of people who wanted to get those games. You were still actually able to go and buy them and then keep them, but after the date that it closed, you weren't able to get them anymore. And it says that this resulted in the only games available for those systems largely being locked behind Nintendo's online service, of course. Now, they go on here to say, this is a quote here from the study: imagine if the only way to watch Titanic was to find a used VHS tape and maintain your own vintage equipment so that you could still watch it. And what if no library, not even the Library of Congress, could do any better? They could keep and digitize that VHS of Titanic, but you'd have to go all the way there to watch it. It sounds crazy, but that's the reality we live in with video games. $180 billion industry, while the games and their history disappear. And again, I really do not like to see that going forward, which is why I do try to pick up physical copies of games, of retro games, where you actually have the full game on the cartridge that aren't connected to online, to still be able to play them maybe at some point in the future. And I think this is just going to continuously get worse and worse. If you do like your old retro games, purchase them now digitally and hope that they don't disappear. Or I guess you're going to have to go out and find the physical stuff. But the thing here with physical games now, especially in the retro community, it's like these games are so expensive for a lot of these systems. It's almost impossible for most people to actually, one, find them and then be able to go out and afford all the games that they do want to have. So we'll see what happens if preservation is something that is going to be important, I have a feeling it isn't that important for the bigger companies, because how many times do they release games over and over again and people continuously buy them over and over again? And that's kind of what they like to see. So kind of concerning there if you're into retro games and you're into the preservation of the history of video games. Now, to end things off, let's talk about Halo Master Chief Collection. We did talk about it the other day, and they continue to get huge updates for this incredible collection, the best compilation of games in one package, I think, ever, in my opinion, at least. And now they are adding a huge update that's adding 8-player Firefight. They're saying here 343 has announced a big update for Halo Master Chief Collection that is actually available today. So go check it out right now if you want to play it. It says the core updates, the first for MCC in over 6 months, adds a significant amount of new content for the shooter, welcome quality of life tweaks, as well as modding improvements. And the highlight here is Firefight, something that I wish was in Halo Infinite, and it isn't there. But it was such a fun game mode, and it allows you to have seamless drop in, drop out Firefight experience. Means players can now join in progress as well as use the match rejoin feature in Firefight matchmade games. And Firefight matches tend to last longer than multiplayer matches. This is why they are doing it. And they say now you can experience a connection hiccup during the match. You can seamlessly rejoin. So it's not going to end your match once you have been kicked out or whatever it is. But I mean, Firefight overall, increasing the max player count from 4 to 8, I think, is big, and a lot of people are going to be able to jump in and play through that game mode. So if you are a Firefight fan, there you have it. There's just going to be more options, more tweaks to get in there and play with more friends. But I will leave the video there, guys. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up. If you are new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.